You are now listening to On Air with Lewis Hunter.
Hi there, welcome back to On Air with Lewis Hunter, where we go into the lives of celebs, professionals, and behind the scenes workers of your favorite movies and films. Join me as we go into their lives and find out what it's like to be one of them. Today we are joined by Alecia Karr. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Now, for people who don't quite know who you are or what you do, would you describe to them exactly what that is?
Oh, gracious. I am the official tribute to Pink and have been performing as Pink for this coming April will be 17 years as a solo performer.
Let's get going.
It's really good going. So when I started back along in 2005, of course, Pink had only really been on the scene with her first release from sort of 98. So she was still quite a new artist and still trying to find her feet. And I kind of fell in love with her after the second album, Misunderstood, which is a bit more gritty, a bit more meaningful, more songs were written by her in collaboration with other people. So like Get the Party Started was written with Linda Perry, or Linda Perry wrote it for Pink essentially. But there was Steven Tyler, from one of the most famous rock bands, and lots of other collaborations with Peaches and things like that. But yeah, it was a great album to kind of get my teeth into to start with.
Now, before you started performing as Pink, you studied a master's degree in biomedicine. How did that come about? Like, what made you decide that's what you wanted to study?
Well, it was quite strange, really, because after I had the children, I kind of thought, well, I didn't really want to work in retail anymore. And because I'd taken a little bit of time out anyway because of the babies, I sort of said, well, what do I want to do? And initially I thought about teaching. And then I thought, well, I'll have to go back to college because it'd been like 10 years since I've been at school. So I'm slightly giving my age away now. But I went back to college. I studied an access course, really, which is like a GCSE and A-level equivalent, because I left school from GCSE, although I'd got quite a few of mine, or I actually got all 9, but not above a C, I might add. So I went back to college, and we were supposed to, as adults and mature students, we were supposed to do maths, English, science at GCSE level and 2 A-level equivalents. So I ended up doing 6 GCSE equivalents. So the maths, English, science, lab skills, computing, again, because we didn't have computers at our school when I left. Again, showing my age. And basically, I went through that through flying colours. My college tutor said, are you going to be applying to university? And I was like, didn't really have any aspirations of it at the time. I just kind of wanted to better myself in the there and now. And so we filled in a UCAS form, did my personal statement, and ended up at Lancaster Uni doing biochemistry, which then led to my master's in biomedicine. But that's kind of it, really. It was I sort of just went with the flow at the time. It wasn't anything really planned. I just kind of went with the flow. I got all the places at unis that I'd applied for. So I basically just had to pick and choose one, really.
Yeah, it's a very interesting sort of degree to study, as it seems quite complicated in general. Like, it seems like quite a challenging sort of degree to get.
Yeah, it was quite intense as well, obviously being over the year, the masters. But we'd covered quite a bit of it during my normal honours degree. But what parts I really fell for were the neurology, so the visual and brain diseases, and also the toxicology parts. So how different things affect your body, how it makes you react, that kind of thing. But it all tied in with the neurology aspect, with the brain. And then I started working for my research project with a gentleman called, it was Dr. Allsop back then. He was Professor Allsop just before he died there last year. at Lancaster University. And what an amazing man, just so knowledgeable, just wanted to impart his knowledge to you all day, every day. But we were working on this research project into dementia, really, and Alzheimer's specifically. And we were working closely with a gentleman called Dr. Mann at Manchester's Hope Hospital, who was kind of the dementia lead down there. And basically, we were being shipped in sample after sample after sample, blood tests mainly from these patients, plus a cohort of controls as well. And my job really was to test all these blood samples to see if this protein called TAR DNA binding protein basically was existent in these blood samples. So basically, on the long story short, the brain, when there's dementias, depending on which type it is, there are protein plaques formed, and it kind of like gunks up your neurons, really, in a simple term. And basically, like anything else in the body, if you're trying to get rid of anything, it has to go through the blood system or through your kidneys, etc. So the brain and spinal fluid had to sequester this protein because, of course, it wasn't meant to be there. So the body's trying to fight against it, etc. So basically, I found quite a lot of percentage of these patients' blood samples contained certain percentages of this TAR DNA binding protein. It's basically TDP43 for short. And we were trying to make sure that we could make a biomarker test. So simply going to the doctor would send your blood test away, nice and simple, nice and easy. You're not having to have lumbar punctures or really intrusive, invasive x-rays, etc. So we were trying to make a biomarker test. So with dementia generally, your brain starts to develop these plaques 20 to 30 years before any symptoms arise. And that could be as simple as forgetting things, or, kind of going to the cupboard and going, well, why did I come out here? And that kind of thing. So it was a nice test to be able to do, especially if the dementia runs in the family. You can pretty much find out with some certainty whether you are developing that. Yes, on the flip side, would you want to know? Certainly, if you're being diagnosed that early, insurance companies are going to have a field day. But actually, you could start the treatment so much earlier. So actually, you're giving yourself that quality of life further along the line, and your survival rates are actually so far increased as well. So that was the guise over it. But basically now Lancaster as well as Leicester have now developed this medication, which has shown in mouse models when tested on mice that it's actually stopped further degradation of the brain, but actually it's shown a slight reversal factor as well. So the mice that had forgotten completely how to get through these tunnels had actually started remembering it again. So it's really good, but they're about to go to human trials. They've just been funding for it. So fingers crossed it'll be available within the next maybe 5 to 10 years, hopefully, but all goes well.
Fingers crossed. That's quite an achievement to have, just from studying and being able to come up with that and figure it out. It's something to sort of be quite proud of. Now, you mentioned within all that you had other jobs in retail. So what other job have you had apart from being a tribute act?
Oh my gosh, what haven't I had? So I started young. I started at 13, surprisingly. My mum used to work in this chip shop. It wasn't ours. And very glamorous job, of course. But at the age of 13, I started working there, just serving mainly. And then it got taken over by a chap from Manchester. And we started to do things like pizzas, kebabs, all that. And so I was in charge of cooking a lot of that. I think I was probably 14 then. But we used to close around about midnight because all the pubs would have kicked out about 10:30. and we'd have had a mad rush on till the end of the night. And then I'd be going to school. So it was quite interesting back then. But I worked there all the way till I was about 18. But when I left school at 16, I went to work in a shoe shop. I can't speak today. A shoe shop, which doesn't exist anymore, which it was Stylo Barrett's. You've probably not heard of it. There used to be one up in the Abbey Centre.
Oh, really?
But I used to work the one in Lancaster. And then before I was 18, I was made supervisor. And then within about 2 months, I was made manager of the store in Lancaster. So I've achieved quite a lot, really. But then I've worked as management in sports stores. I've chefed, and that was kind of an accidental happening, but I've chefed in American restaurants and travelled halfway across country running kitchens. And then when I had the babies, of course, I went to college and things, but and obviously singing sort of happened along the way. But I also worked in a nursing home. So because I wanted to go on and do some more studying, I wanted first-hand experience of dementia. So it's okay reading it in textbooks and doing all of this kind of thing, but I actually wanted hands-on. So I kind of put a little notice on the Facebook. Oh gosh, when would it have been? 2014, maybe 15. And basically a matron from a nursing home in Belfast, the Somme, picked it up and basically went, well, I'll actually pay you to be our dementia specialist. So that's what I ended up doing for a couple of years before moving back to England. But yeah, I've had such an array of jobs. And currently I'm a science teacher, weirdly.
Sounds like a definitely interesting life you've had with all the jobs, and you've still managed to keep it all going.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a juggle, but yeah, I don't think I'd have it any other way. I mean, you know, during the dreaded lockdown, I started to fester a little bit because we weren't gigging. Teaching was online, which is not really my cup of tea. I prefer to be in front of the students and kind of that engagement. But it was such a weird one. So I learned how to bake a lot, but I also learned how to eat it all as well, because there was only me and my husband in the house. Yeah. So, pros and cons.
Yeah, now I'm going to circle back around to what we were first talking about to do with your biomedicine, being a neurosurgeon. What made you decide to give this career path up?
Oh, well, it took a little while to decide to, postpone it. We'll not say give it up, because again, I'm hopefully starting my PhD in neurology in October next year, this year actually, now come to think of it. So it's only postponed, but basically during my first year of uni, during my biochemistry degree, we were doing our exams sort of towards the summer term of 2004, and that's when I hit the karaoke clubs in Manchester. And of course, hasten to add, a few pints later, all the girls, they're egging you on to get on the karaoke, and I could never ever sing sober. I didn't have the nerves for that, weirdly. But I was in this club, and Pink was playing in the MEN, I think, at the time. And one of her promotions team from the arena itself was in the club as I was singing. And basically was given a business card and was told, if you dye your hair, etc., you'll be the next best thing to Pink. Well, of course, I'm like, well, I kind of like Pink, but what's he on about? I didn't have a clue, because the thing is, the tribute scene back then was quite scarce. It was like Elvis, maybe the odd Dolly here and there. There wasn't any current, up to date, or newly emerging artists. So yeah, it was quite an odd one. So a few days later, we kind of gave him a call, and he said, well, if you learn, if can get some backing tracks, learn the songs, you know, get a costume organized. I'll come and see your first show, and, you know, we'll see what we can do. But you need to take it seriously. I was like, well, obviously I'm going to take it seriously. If I'm going to enter into anything, you've got to do it well or not at all. Mm-hmm. So I did. I got the first costumes organized. They were a little ropey, you know, and yeah, my mum ended up buying me a sewing machine for my Christmas that year, so I could actually, you know, sew things properly and not hand stitch, because I make all my own costumes as well. But yeah, I learned all the music. I had to basically go out on the circuit and learn how to sing sober. But I wasn't doing the Pink then. I was just doing generic pop stuff, just to get my confidence up and to get me out there and to get my name known, etc. But yeah, it was quite an enigma, really. So that's how I got started back along. And the guy that actually gave us the business card, we contacted him when I was putting on a family and friends kind of concert in my local town. So there wasn't very many people there, of course. It wasn't open to the public. It was just invited guests only. So I did like a 40-minute show. And he walked in, half a song later, walked back out, and I was like, oh, that's not good. But he turned around to the hubby and said, yeah, I hate being right. He says, give us a call. He said, and I'll try and see. But I think he was instrumental in quite a lot of the meetings of Pink that I've done, and actually getting to sing live to her as well. So there's quite a lot that's happened over the years that I think he's been in the background organising.
Yeah, he's sort of like the overseer as such.
Yeah, kind of like that, like a wee godfather type thing, but not in the, you know, not in the mafia type.
Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed.
Our previous guest, Stevie Shanks, mentioned being a part of a show with you. How did this become a thing?
Oh gosh, well, me and Stevie, I can't even remember how we first met, but we first met. We absolutely hit it off. And actually, he was such a good friend. Like we'd jam all the time. So basically, he'd mentioned, because I did well, I say an acoustic set, but I used to do like a few slower numbers during my set. So, Dear Mr. President, Please Don't Leave Me, Who Knew, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And occasionally, I'd cover things like Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time, which Pink has done live on tour. So because of that, Stevie went, oh, I could maybe learn them, and, you know, we'll. So basically, I ended up down at his house quite a lot, and we were jamming, you know, playing all these songs. And it wasn't just Pink either. We used to do rock songs and everything, just having a bit of a mess about. So it was great fun. And then sort of when Stevie had got to learn those songs properly, and we'd had plenty of practice, when he could come along and join the shows, he did. So we did quite a few weddings, and, you know, he'd appear here and there and maybe travel up to Scotland with us and stuff like that when he was available, and not with his Flash Harry band, yeah. Which is, you know, obviously, as you know, it's one of the biggest tribute bands, and they're just phenomenal. Do you know, I think I remember meeting Stevie. I think I hired a PA off him for a Christmas show, because we had about 10 shows this one particular day, and I was like lacking in the equipment department. So yeah, I think it was somebody put me in touch with Stevie because he had spare equipment lying about. And I think that's how we met. But yeah, we definitely hit it off, and he's a character for sure. And
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably mentioned Fifi too.
No, I don't think I have, no.
Oh, okay. Fifi's his pride and joy, his motorbike.
That's right, the wee Harley.
Yeah, which I'd had the pleasure of being on the ride outs from Carrickfergus, you know, the charity ride outs. So yeah, many a fun time.
Definitely sounds it. Now, I want to ask you, what is it like to be seen as Pink rather than your true self when it comes to the gigs? Like coming out and being the Pink tribute artist rather than, your own true form.
Well, it's quite strange because actually dressing up, I was never really into dressing up when I was a kid. I was always sort of out and very sporty and doing all these things. But actually getting ready, kind of doing the vocal warm-ups, getting changed, putting your makeup on. It's just a different persona. And actually, because you can sort of not act the fool as such, but just have fun on stage and run about and bounce around and, do your little choreographies and things. But, you could pull faces, swear a lot.
Yeah.
Which, you don't get to do in my normal life. So, yeah, it's quite chalk and cheese to what I do during the day. But it is phenomenal. But it's the fact that I love her so much as well. And I love her music. And it's the lyrics and the meaning behind everything. You just, there's quite a lot of her songs, certainly early songs throughout to her latest song, All I Know So Far. There's lots of lyrics in that you just kind of resonate with. And I think that's what makes her so popular, because there's millions, billions of people around the world that also resonate and have a story to tell. Maybe they have a specific or a special place, but they've heard this specific song, or maybe it's a relationship and a favorite song, or a breakup and a favorite song, that kind of thing that brings you out or makes you smile, makes you cry actually sometimes.
Yeah. Now, what is the process in transforming into Pink?
There's not a lot to do, because if you see me in real life, as Stevie also knows, my hair's always really, really short, and I wear it as pink during the day. For school, I don't. I wear it down, but that's more of a the professional scene.
Yeah.
So there's not much to do in that front. So I don't have to wig up or anything like quite a few other tributes do. But it's the makeup, the preparation of the vocal warm-ups, and then of course getting changed. So there's not a great deal to do, but it's still quite invigorating.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about the vocal warm-ups. What is it you sort of have to go into to get those ready for your shows?
Well, it's just generic vocal warm-ups, really. It's kind of all your vowels and making sure your muscles are all warmed up and things like that. But I usually do, and it's probably all the professionals out there will go, no, don't ever do that. But I usually do sort of 20 minutes vocal warm-ups, but then I do a cool down at the end as well. So after the shows, because of course doing an hour and a half of strenuous vocals can wreak havoc on the old chords. But it's just the fact that she's so enjoyable. I just love performing as her.
Yeah. Now, where has been your favorite place to perform as Pink?
Oh, okay. Gosh, there's a lot of years to trawl through now. Probably Holland, because I do quite a lot of European festivals, but Holland's probably the best one, where I was awarded the official title by the official fans. Probably the theatre at the Mill as well, as you say, with Stevie and the band. That was the first live one where I got to do all the aerial stunts and sort of be with the Fire Angel dancers and the whole band. And there's so many. But yeah, I think those would probably be my top two, I think.
Okay. And where would your dream venue to put on the show?
Oh, wow. It's got to be the SSE, hasn't it? Really local. Yeah. Although I'm nearly there. We're on the Slipway in May. So there's a big show coming up there.
Okay.
But there's other tributes. Well, I say another tribute performing and a girl group. And then there's like loads of sort of I think they're all like dancey DJs and things for the evening, but should be good fun.
Sounds like it will be. Now, my final question to you is how do you manage to juggle all of this whilst having 3 children?
Well, the children aspect was quite difficult when I was at college and uni, because when I started college, my youngest was only 6 months old, and
Okay.
my twins were only 2. So yeah, I had 3 under the age of 2, which was quite a juggling act. But between the dads looking after them and going to childminders and nurseries, yeah, we got there. Of course, through uni and things like that, that was a little different. So the youngest one came with me to the nursery at uni, and the other 2 had sort of started school at that point, or near enough. It was definitely a juggling act, but most of my studying was kind of at night time when the kids had gone to bed. But like I say, sort of 17 years on anyway of doing Pink, they're now in their early 20s. So yeah.
Don't have to really worry about that now.
No, I don't have to worry about that now. They just give me sleepless nights for other reasons.
As I'm sure all the children do to their parents.
Oh, absolutely. We don't stop worrying about them till the day we die. I don't know about anything else, but
Well, look, thank you so much for coming on. Really do appreciate it.
you're very welcome. It's nice to talk to you finally.
I know, finally, and you're more than welcome to come back on anytime if you have anything you want to talk about.
Excellent. That is perfect. Thank you, Lewis.
All right, thank you, and thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.